chance to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, you are listening to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. This is going to be our Saints vs. Bears preview pod. The Saints get the Chicago Bears coming into the Superdome after a big win against the Colts. So, the biggest question on my mind, and hopefully on both of y'all's mind, is can we show a level of the big C word, consistency? Can we do it again?
The C word, huh?
The C word, consistency. Okay. What would you be thinking of with? But anyway, so can we do it again, Max? What do you think?
I'm going to go ahead and give these guys the benefit of the doubt. I want to buy in so fucking badly now.
Yeah.
I want to be all back in, 150%. Kind of the way we were feeling after going into the Packers game. You know what I mean? Like we had won the first two games. We were 2-0.
Right.
And we had hit some clutch plays at the end of the game to close these games out.
Yeah.
The kill shot to Shaheed in the first game being a prime example. Like I was 100% bought in at that point.
And
then it's just the wind went out of the sails. The second car hit the ground in Green Bay, had the injury. That whole week we were talking, we weren't sure if he was going to play. Is he going to be out for an extended period of time? Is it going to be Jameis time? And everything has just been in flux since then.
Yeah.
And I feel like an entire season's worth of drama, whether it's stuff with Penning, whether it's stuff with Olave, whether it's stuff with Carmichael, has happened in that period of time.
DA.
Yeah, since 2-0 and now 4-4. It seems like in those 6 games, a lifetime has passed.
Yeah. But, I feel like we've all aged.
I feel like we've aged in dog years since then, man. Like I feel like instead of being 45, I feel like I'm 55. But that being said, man, seeing what they did last week really gave hope. And seeing what they've done over the last 3 weeks has given some hope as well. Like I'm looking at the stat right here. The Saints have 449.3 yards per game over their last 3 games, which leads the entire NFL in that span by over 50 yards per game.
The stats are great. The stats, are, like we said last episode, Hope has entered the chat again. Yeah. Okay, I think she was not there.
She was missing for a few weeks. She took a little detour, but she is firmly back.
She's back. Yeah,
in the chat. And at this point, I want her to stay here, man. Give me reason to keep her in the room. We have to beat the Bears on Sunday, and we have to beat the Vikings the next week.
Is it safe to say you
have to?
Did you find hope in Destin?
Was that one of the girls over at Sammy's? I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know if they had any girls at a sandwich shop, but
yeah, the cashier maybe. I think it's imperative.
Yep.
For the C word, the consistency,
Yep.
It is imperative that we win Sunday against the Bears and we win the following week against the Vikings to go into the bye week, the official bye week, at 6-4.
Yeah.
Heading into the showdown with the Falcons. And look, I think their record, their schedule's pretty light going into that game as well. And there's a really good chance, with Heineke playing in place of Ritter, I think the offense for the Falcons is going to be a little tougher to deal with going forward.
Yeah, they're going to have some juice. They're going to have a little boost, I think.
Well, they actually have a quarterback who can throw the ball.
That and, I don't want to be the first team playing the Falcons with Heineke's first start, so to speak, because I think that his first game, they're going to come in kind of amped, like, that new blood type of thing teams go through. Whether it's like the first game with an interim coach they rally behind him, or it's the first game with a new QB.
We might not even see Heineke, right?
We might not. I mean, because he could suck enough to where they go back to Ritter.
Correct. Who knows what's going to happen?
But my point is, but that's exactly my point. I like that where we're going to be getting them, because you don't want to get a team like that's galvanized, but we might be putting the cart ahead of the horse here, because
we're here to talk about the Bears.
Because the Bears are going to be a team where it's already been announced that it's going to be Badgett. Am I saying that right? I mean,
yeah. And here's the deal: we got backup quarterbacks pretty much between now and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, because even when we play the Falcons, even whoever their quote unquote starter is essentially a backup.
3 straight games.
I mean, like Ritter has not
proven
3
straight games.
Ritter has not proven to be the quality of an NFL starter. And when they're playing Ritter, then they're playing Ritter's backup. So, like, the first backup we faced, though, Taylor Bagent, going against the Bears.
Tyler.
Yeah. Not Taylor.
It's the same thing.
Same, yeah. Well, Tyler, who gives a shit? No. Respect, because if we start saying that shit, then that's when he's going to fucking kill us.
Actually, Tyson.
Tyson. Yeah, we're all wrong.
No one knows his name.
Yeah, clearly. So, I mean, we got the Bears. They're bringing in a backup QB who none of us can even say his name right. I mean, this is a Bears preview pod, but, you know, is this... I don't know if we want to get into a bigger discussion on QBs, but it's like this is who we're coming up against. So it's like, what are we going up against with this particular QB?
Well, like Max said, I mean, this is becoming a pretty big theme this year in the NFL with, you know, our next 3 games. You had the Vikings lose Cousins this week. Rodgers went out. You know, we thought Purdy wasn't going to play this week for San Fran. He did after the concussion. First guy to play, I think, after a concussion the next game in the whole NFL.
On a short week, too.
On a short week. So, I don't know. Let's talk to their doctors about that. But,
yeah.
You know, just this seems to be a big theme in these guys getting hurt with all the protections in. And, you know, it doesn't seem to matter much. So that's kind of the ironic part of the NFL going to protect these guys at all costs, and it's still not working. We're seeing, you know, 6, 7, 8 guys. We got Deshaun Watson out. Who else?
It seems like half of the starting quarterbacks in the league.
It's crazy. You've got Daniel Jones. You've got, we said Rodgers already. You've seen who we got next week? Colts.
Yeah,
Anthony
Cousins.
Richardson last week. Cousins next week.
Purdy,
Ritter had kind of a concussion, but maybe he's getting benched. We don't really, I guess, know for sure.
Purdy might be out again.
Right. So this has become a big thing, and we've had big discussions on Carr before, and I think it's pertinent here to understand that we have a guy who's been available his whole career, has played the most games since he entered the league of any quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, knock on wood.
And that's a big deal because the consistency that Clint keeps harping on with the C word.
Consistency.
At least we have a quarterback that's.
Did you call me Clint?
Did I?
I think, yeah, I thought you were talking about like something Clint said. Then I realized you were talking about me.
Did I call him Clint for real?
I did not hear the word Clint.
I heard Clint.
You got some stuff to work out.
Listeners, we'll play this back.
Yeah, one of us is wrong. But
we're not cutting this. We're going to go.
Either way, we get a
I
backup.
love Clint, but I doubt we would reference him for something Saints related.
That's why it stood out to me. I was like,
It'd be super funny. Shout out Clint.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Team Dead Pork. Go donate.
Either way, we're getting a guy who's got 2 starts under his, or 1 start under his belt, or no, 2 starts under his belt, and a little bit more game action than that.
And also, they glorified him after that win in Chicago. They were like, "This is what he's always been waiting for." It's
they're
like,
grasping for straws. They're just praying something good happens. Everything's bad in Chicago.
I hope we're not part of that story. For the record, good Lord.
I don't think we will be. So I'll lead right into it. I'm with Max. You don't roll this game up. We're not going anywhere. This is teed up for our defense to have a field day and recover from the last 3 games and hold them to something under 17. Our offense, in my opinion, shouldn't even have to be great in this game for us to be okay. I think they continue the trend. I think they have, you know, a really solid performance. I'm not expecting last week. Like I said, that may end up being our best offensive performance of the whole year. 500 yards, 38 points. It's going
to be hard to top.
Hard to beat. That's an excellent game.
Yeah.
I just feel like with Max, this is an opportunity. We've complained over the years over our schedule and how the NFL loves to put us in tough situations. And man, this tees up about as good as you can hope. We got, you know, Minshew last week, which was a tough roster, but, you know, backup quarterback. We go in there, win. Then we see Cousins go down for next week. Fields is out this week. And then we get a bye week before Atlanta. That's pretty good on the scheduling side. We don't have anything to complain about. We got to perform. Yeah. We got to make this hurt for this division and go into that Atlanta game where a win could like really separate us from something and put us on a path to the playoffs.
So here's my question. Okay. I think everything you just said is exactly the reason why we let Lady Hope back in to hang out with us. Okay. We're cool with it. She's not annoying us. There's times where Hope annoys the shit out of us. And we're like, please get out of our face. We clearly suck. We have nothing redeeming about us. We would just prefer you did not exist. That is not the
I
case.
think you're on the wrong podcast when you say that one, buddy. You sure you're not Saints Block Party podcast?
No. Oh, no.
Nick and I love Hope, man.
Shout out to Adam and Ryan.
I love Hope.
I text Max today. I said,
there's times when you're just like, like we're Saints fans. We've seen this shit. You can't tell me there's been any.
That's true though, but we're still positive. That's part of
positive.
the dementia involved with being a Saints fan.
I am a positive fan generally, but I think even as a positive fan, I go to games hoping to just maybe see something. I don't hope for. I think the hope that we're talking about is the hope that gets us into the playoffs. So let me just get back to the question. So,
real quick about that though. When we first conceived doing this together, the three of us, I thought for sure
getting real deep.
I was going to be the pessimist of this group.
I thought so too.
Somehow I've become the optimist, which is just bizarre. You two have always been more optimistic than I have.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And I think part of that is the momentum of the fan base. And look, I love the fan base. They're so emotional. It's so up and down. And that's what Saints fans are. But the OG Saints fans, like I told Max this week, we could watch a loss and be like, it's going to be fine. We're going to win the Super Bowl. It's flipped. It's weird.
To a degree. I mean, I'm not like these new wave Saints, even though, we've talked a lot about how much older y'all are than me and all that good shit and making fun of me for my age.
It's not that much.
But these Saints fans who... the young millennials or the Gen Z Saints fans.
The spoiled Saints fans, let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I at least had the benefit of, the absolute blessing of having a grandfather who took me to the games since I was 2.5 years old. Some people might think that's a curse, having to watch Saints in the 80s, mid-90s, Dick Haslett, all that bullshit. But
Corey, since you were probably 18, 19, you had Drew Brees.
No, I was at least 21 when we got Drew Brees. Okay,
21. Sorry, I was off a year or two. Sorry, but okay. But the majority of your adult life, you had Drew Brees.
I've seen, but I've at least seen in person the shit Saints. I mean, I've seen this, but I saw the good Saints with the Dome Patrol and the playoff teams that got to the playoffs back then.
Yep.
But I'm with y'all in the sense of losing is nothing new to us. Seeing a Saints losing team is nothing new. I think what the Super Bowl era Saints, the Peyton Breeze era Saints brought to the table was that people all of a sudden have this, I don't know if you want to call it unrealistic, they just have this elevated standard that if you're not in contention for the top 2 seeds in the conference, then what are we even doing?
It's a failure. Right?
And that's just not reality. That's just not reality. So I don't have any, terrible issue or self-introspecting problem if we're not getting to that level. I get it. There's years where we're just not going to make the playoffs, and as Saints fans, that's something we've been very accustomed to, especially before Sean and Breeze era began. But I'll say this, my pessimism for this is we all thought
Lord, spit it out, Junior.
We all thought we should be doing better than where we are right now, and that's all. But Hope's back in the chat, and
I guess my original interjection was Hope never really leaves the chat for me. Nick touched on it before. There was always some scenario, whether it's week 15 or 16, and this team has a losing record, where we're both looking at the scenarios, back in the day in the Times-Picayune, and going, oh man, all right, so if this team loses and this team, maybe they tie, there's a chance that if this team wins by 3 points, we can make it to the playoffs. So Hope never really leaves the chat, so to speak. I just think, it's been a combination of being exposed to the social media streets and just hearing everyone spur of the moment opinion or thoughts on the team. The hot takes are flying day after day, week after week. And honestly, I've been jaded from the NOLA no call to the Bounty Gate stuff. That's kind of hurt Lady Hope a little bit in my eyes. But at the same point, I'm still, no matter where we are going into week 17, I'll probably still be looking at every scenario saying, okay, we can still make it to the playoffs if these 4 obscure things happen.
Yeah, I'll always do the math. I think it's just, what I was saying is that I'm not going to be one of these, only knowing Breeze, Peyton, and saying, well, if we're not making the conference champ, or if we're not top, like you said, you called these people out a few episodes ago, where it's like, for anyone who's saying, oh, the Niners lost and the Eagles, if the Eagles would lose, then maybe we could do blank and blank and blank and blank. I ain't there. Like, I'm not with those people. I'm not going to freak out and say that, oh, damn, that Packers loss is really going to hurt in our conference seating. I'm not even at that place.
Exactly.
I think the hope being...
But we never thought it was.
Well, hope hanging by a thread off the cliff for me was just the whole idea that we talked about was Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, the whole regime, because if we come to the collective conclusion that the regime we have in place right now is not it, and they're not the ones who can actually lead us to anything. I mean, maybe they make the playoffs, maybe they win a bad division, but if we come to the collective conclusion that the guys that we have in place right now aren't good or aren't those guys, then I'm not saying that hope goes away. We can still win a bad division, but it certainly makes you think we'll win the division, lose in the playoffs.
That's the expectation problem. Yeah. Winning the division
should be the only focus for anybody that's a fan of this team.
And that's a good season.
And I'm fine with that. But this group that's in place, they might. I mean, if they don't even get you that, or if we're not even sure that they are the ones to get you that, because are we sure? I mean,
we're okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do I think that Dennis Allen is the coach to lead this team for the next 5 years? No. Do I think Dennis Allen is the coach that's going to lead this team to a Super Bowl win? No. That being said, the division this year is so god awful.
Yeah.
And our team, on paper and in performance last week, is the most well-equipped team in the NFC South to actually make some noise.
Right.
Now, if we touched on this on the last episode, that it took longer for the offense to come together, and maybe this was the tipping point to where they're finally going to be a consistent unit from game to game and just come out and put up 24, 25, 28, 30 points a game. If they can do that and the defense can play complementary football, this team can make some noise. Yeah. There's really nobody in the NFC. Like the 49ers, 3 weeks ago, I would have said the 49ers are clearly the best team in the NFC, probably the NFL. They have lost 3 games in a row right now.
Badly.
Purdy put it's like we mentioned this, I think, I don't know what episode, but we mentioned the idea of bad tape, quote unquote bad tape. And I think we put out some bad tape actually against the Titans, even though we won. We put out some bad tape about how we could be exposed in the O-line, some of the mistakes that were made. And maybe that came to fruition because after that game, we beat the Panthers. I mean, look at them. But after the Panthers game, I think we had whatever we put on tape that was bad was exposed. Teams took advantage of it. I think the 49ers maybe did the same thing. Getting a little bit off track.
The 49ers, they're basically dealing with injury issues. When you have Debo out, he's the catalyst for the
best offensive lineman.
But again, that's the 49ers.
But I don't think anyone thought necessarily that would be a deal breaker for that offense because of how well it was running. It's proven that it is, that they might be a CMC or a Debo injury away from being an ineffective offense.
Right. But back to my original point. This team is in a division that is so bad right now. It's almost a joke. Where we knew that the Bucs were going to lose a couple of games in a row after they took the division lead. You knew the Falcons were going to lose a couple of games in a row. And it's like we're all going to hang around with the same record. So if we can just beat the Falcons and take the lead in this division, we could honestly run away with it if we just win the games we're supposed to win.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no teams in the NFC that really scare you. The Lions are probably the Lions and the Eagles are probably the cream of the NFC good right now.
Not for me. I'd still.
But they look good, but it's not like you're not going to play, some juggernaut at home. It's not terrifying to go to Detroit.
I can tell you, first round, you win the division, you're at home. We're going to be favored, and I think all of us would be expected to win if you win the division, even if they end up with a better record, whoever that may be. There's a couple contenders out there, Dallas, whatever. I don't think anyone would feel uncomfortable at playing any one of the wild card teams at home.
Yeah.
If we're able to win the division. Now, from there, you're going either to Detroit, San Fran, Philly. For me, I want to go to Detroit. That's where I would like to go.
Okay.
Out of those 3, yes.
Well, let me just do this. I'm acknowledging we have hope. Okay, let me just say that first. But before we start talking about who we're going to play in the playoffs, can we at least just acknowledge we have to see what happened at Indianapolis again? We had one win. We had one good win against the Colts, and not taking any credit away. Like I said, we're enjoying the shit out of this win. But like, we have to see it again.
Yeah, but you got to take into account how bad the rest of the division is. And the reality is, even if we aren't consistently what we did last week against the Colts, let's just say we do regress and have a poor offensive game this week, and we go back and forth between having a good game and a bad game, this team is still probably going to win the division.
But how good were we feeling about our piss-poor division when we got romped by a team from said piss-poor division?
Well, I told you before last week. The reason we have hope is our division. I told you before last week.
But our division kicked us in the ass when the Bucs came to our own house.
They also kicked us in the ass when the offensive line was performing like complete ass.
And so that's why I'm saying
the offensive line, the new lineup of the offensive line
looks a lot better.
Better. And look, hey, the coaching staff apparently, lo and behold, was right to bench Penning.
Yeah.
Because look, with Pete over at left tackle.
How about Pete at left tackle real quick?
Yeah.
Against Josh Allen, who had 2 more sacks and is now second in the league in sacks.
Maybe the whole time he was out and injured, he just studied left tackle tape. I don't know, but it looks good.
Well,
but
ironically, he was a first
tackle
round pick
at Stanford, right?
Because to be a left tackle.
He just found his roots, and look at this. Yeah. But, I mean, my whole thing is, though, we're not that far removed from all of us agreeing that, shit's got to change. Shit's got to be better. And, we saw some change. We saw improvement against the Colts. Yes. But, again, I go back to the consistency word that we have to, for me, okay, look, I want us to succeed more than anything. I want us to win this division. I think there's no reason we should not win this division. But after having seen evidence of us with, yes, a much inferior, different lineup, offensive line, all that stuff against a division opponent who killed us, I just need to see us do the things that we're saying we're going to do. I need to see us do it again.
Okay, but here's a counterpoint to what you just said. 5 weeks ago, the three of us and most of the fan base were on cloud 9 when we were 2-0.
Yep.
With a 17-0 lead over Green Bay.
Yeah.
Going into the second half.
I'm not refuting
Everybody at that point was on cloud 9, and you couldn't tell anyone that there was an issue.
I was in that seat.
So there was a couple of week period where it was DEFCON 1,
right?
And everybody was freaking the fuck out.
How close?
But what I'm saying is, go back a little bit further, and I think you'll be like, well, you know what? We were all on cloud 9, thinking this team was a legitimate Super Bowl contender after week 2,
and then we got trounced by the Bucs, and we realized that was
a long season, though, and there's roller coasters.
But since the Bucs, the offense has been better than the time Max is talking about.
It has. You can't argue with that. You're right. It has been. So all I'm saying is we need to see it. We need to see it. I
think we are seeing it. I think we're seeing it, and we're ignoring it because we're talking about situational football, not the offense. Saying the offense is not, working was an overstatement.
But no, as of right now, it is because of what the Colts did. But
even in the 2 losses, 400 yards, dominating the stat sheet, moving the ball, and the situations killed us when they counted most. That does not mean your offense is crippled. It means you're having your worst moments at the most important time.
Yeah, I don't think it's crippled. I just think
Foster dropping a touchdown in his hands is not a dysfunctional offense. It's a mistake by one guy.
No, I think the fourth quarter of the Jags game carried over, and we talked about it. You asked me the question pointedly in our Colts preview pod, I think it was. Not the Colts preview, the Jags recap pod. You said, Corey, you mentioned the hurry-up offense. Do you think that's something we just run? And I said, I don't see why the hell not. I mean, besides the fact that it might not technically be sustainable to run a 2-minute offense on every single play of the game. But we came out of the play with tempo. We came out of the game in the Colts with tempo. Mm-hmm. We were running it hurry up. Worked. Pretty much hurry up, and it worked. So maybe, so I do think that what gave us success in the Jags game, albeit a loss, carried over into the Colts game. So that is the beginnings of the C word consistency. I just think unless you have two wins in a row. I
want to know what you mean by consistency, though. Do you mean winning? Do you mean red zone performance? What are you looking for to define what you're saying?
Well, I think we all said that the statistical performance that we put up, 500 plus yards, 300 plus.
To me, it's red zone performance.
But that's what I mean. Yeah,
I don't care about stats. I don't care about 500 yards.
That's what I was going to say. The stats are one thing. It'll be hard for us to top the stats. I want to see it that we're getting touchdowns, not field goals, efficiency. So I don't care if we only end up with 350 yards on offense. If we're getting into the red zone, because maybe maybe we're winning the field position game all game, and we get into the red zone and it's touchdowns over field goals. I just want to see that again, because that's what we did against the Colts. Got touchdowns, not field goals. Just do it again. Just do it again. If we play the Bears and have more, if our red zone performance equates to more red zone appearances with touchdowns than field goals, then I will say, hey, guess what? We did something good against the Colts, and we did it again against the Bears. So now I feel much better about talking, that whole conversation of who you're going to play if you win the division in a home game. Because right now, we've got one good win. Not to take away from it. It was a great-ass win. But this playoff scenario talk it's just tough without having seen it.
I'm just saying,
twice in a
we're
row.
ignoring the steps that they made before, like we talked about before last game, where I said 400 yards is something when you're in a close game. It's not meaningless because
it's not garbage time.
We weren't chasing the game. We were playing our normal offense. We weren't behind 20 points and just getting garbage stats. These were games where we failed at the most important time. If you can correct that one thing, the whole narrative changes on everything. So I think maybe there's a possibility we just struggled in the most important game for a couple games, and it completely flipped everyone's minds because...
Well, it definitely flipped everybody's minds.
If they don't, let's say we come through there and Foster catches it, we kick a game-winning field goal in overtime, and we're 6-2 today. Everyone's losing their mind that we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because then the guys, then you would have
5-3.
Well, then you would have what happened in training camp where everybody's all hype.
I mean,
and loving the positivity, and then a guy like Jeff Duncan comes in, who is actually kind of, we didn't like it when he said it because we were all hype on the offense looks great train, but he was like, "Hey guys, there's a lot of pre-snap penalties. The red zone team drills aren't looking very good." He highlighted some things that just everybody was so hyped they just didn't want to hear it, and they started just killing him. And this isn't a Jeff Duncan defense or anything, but I think it's just the idea that
well, there's a herd mentality on social media.
Yeah, if
correct.
we had,
and that's what I'm saying has happened.
If we were 5-2 versus 3-4 the last week, the guy who was saying hey, 5-2 is all great and everything, but I think we still have some glaring issues in the XYZ department. The people who are just fuck you, we're 5-2 would have came out the woodwork.
Correct.
But since we were 3-4, it was the inverse.
I think we have to accept that is the margin we're talking about in the NFL.
Yeah.
That you are talking about these games coming down to 2 or 3 plays a lot of times. That's what the NFL wanted. They want parity. They want these teams close. They're close. And I think we're on the better side
succeeding.
of these close teams. I think we are a top half of the league, a playoff level team.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get lost. Max and I were talking a little bit about Carr specifically, and we have, that when you say he's a bottom quarterback, I don't think you're watching the quarterbacking in the league. Because you wouldn't say that if you watched a bunch of Jets games, or you watched a bunch of Browns games, or you watched a bunch of,
Bears.
Well, right.
Yeah.
It's not bottom. It's not top.
It's
Right.
mid.
It's
Right.
mid.
It's mid,
And
yeah.
we have to understand that.
You would think the Gen Z fans out of everybody would understand mid,
Yeah, they love mid.
right? But
Well, we've touched on it, and I've described Carr repeatedly as mid, but then I need to realize that we said before the season started that once we got Carr, we were saying if we just need this guy to be somewhere between 12 and 15.
We want him 12. That's what we want.
If you can just get to 12 in the league performance wise,
just get there.
at that point, this team can do some real damage.
Yeah. If the defense stays
right now, there's
I
been
forgot
several
Atlanta,
games.
and that should have been the first one I mentioned. Sorry, Atlanta, bad quarterbacking.
There you go. But
fuck the
there's
Falcons.
been a couple of times this season where he's been a guy that's firmly in the 20s, possibly the back half of the 20s. But then there's been a couple of times, a couple moments where this has been, a top 10 guy. Like this past week, that's a top 10 performance.
Oh yeah, he well, and I think to what you just said and what Nick said, when people are saying, well, not people, okay, Saints fans, because unless you're like a complete NFL junkie Saints fan, all right, and I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm looking at examples, prime examples, 1 and 1A right here with Max and Nick. But there's so many Saints fans who have only seen either Drew Brees or Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, the Simeons,
Taysom.
Ian Books of the world, and then this year. Okay, so they aren't looking at the rest of the NFL quarterbacking world to understand what we kind of touched on in this episode, but also have touched on before, is that right now, in this exact moment, the NFL quarterbacking world is not good.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's
it's
6
not.
or 7 really exceptional ones that you feel they have a distinct advantage.
Yeah,
After that,
like,
it's a crapshoot, man.
the good ones are really good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, Pat Mahomes, like, we don't have to talk about him a whole lot to know how good he is.
And he scored 9 yesterday. So let's talk about the NFL.
He lost to Sean Payton's Denver
to the
Broncos
to the
yesterday.
defense that gave up 70.
Yeah.
He scored 9. He leads the league in interceptions,
Yeah.
I believe.
I mean, like,
so we've got to understand
Right.
where we're at.
Well, let me say this though, and this is an issue in sports in general. I don't think that the younger generation understands the difference between words like good, great, elite, and the one that everyone loves to throw around,
The GOAT.
Goat.
Oh God,
It's fucking mind blowing to hear these goddamn kids throwing the term goat around. Like it's
like like goat. Just
pretty
say
good.
Just say goat. OY. You're the goat of the year. Like like just like that's what someone throws around goat. It's like I agree with you.
It's unbelievable, man. Because,
Yeah.
these people don't understand. Like, don't call anybody a goat. There's only a couple people you can call goat. In basketball, it's Michael Jordan. He is the fucking goat. That's the person that should be referred to as the goat.
Not
Like,
LeBron James.
Leave me the fuck alone with this LeBron James is the goat shit.
LeBron James.
And then when you get to the NFL,
Second's good too.
second, Tom Brady. Refer to Tom Brady if you're talking about quarterbacks as the GOAT.
Second. To Drew Brees.
If you're talking about wide receiver players or wide receivers, Jerry Rice is the fucking GOAT.
Yeah.
Like, I forget which player it was and threw out his list of like the top 5 wide receivers ever. And it was.
Was it DeAndre Hopkins that did that?
No, it was a young player, somebody like, 23, 24 years old. I don't remember who it was. The list was laughable.
Yeah.
And it's a.
Well, they do these lists with the young players where it's like they'll list.
They list
guys,
their friends, dude. They list their friends.
They'll list.
Or they list the players
Or there's
that have been good for the last couple of
The
years.
team's social media will do a game with their current players and list guys from like even the 80s and 90s, and they don't even know who they are.
Yeah, I mean, back to my original point, though, it's like these terms like great, elite, and GOAT get thrown around way too loosely.
Yeah.
And people don't know what the fuck these terms mean.
It's a excessiveness of superlatives.
Yes. They're all prisoners of the moment, and someone has a big
Excess,
game,
I
and
should
all
say.
of a sudden the goat emoji is at the end of every tweet.
I shouldn't have to be
Like Twitter's a fucking cesspool of stupid people.
I shouldn't have to readily recognize the goddamn goat emoji because it shouldn't be used that often.
It shouldn't.
That might be my oldest man
Goat.
take I'll have on this
Greatest of
entire
all
podcast.
Time. Like, what the hell?
Oh, God.
Why is it getting thrown around this much?
We sound
Because it
healthy.
can be because people have fingers and keyboards on their phones and they send it.
And then you combine that with the herd mentality, and it's like, Jesus Christ, good luck.
a herd of goats.
Yeah, you would think. Good luck getting a good, reasonable take anywhere on social media. But
So when you see these things on Twitter, as Darth Saint, because that's your handle, do you reply with that is not a reasonable take? Is that what you say?
I honestly don't engage with this sort of stuff.
Because it'll never end. Pretty much.
It's never ending. My tweet about Chris Olave, and it was I led
You
I led
tried.
off to it.
Oh, you
I led
stepped
it with hot take. The Saints should trade him.
Yeah.
In the offseason or a year or two from now. And the amount of responses to it was amazing. And it's like these people.
Well, the responses were in the negative.
Well, not all of them, but the vocal minority.
No, I think it was. Look, I looked at those replies. No offense, but I mean, I'm not disagreeing with your take, but I found it laughable as well that so many people were like, "You're crazy," because to me,
Well, there was no
crazy,
reasonable defense of it.
It wasn't a crazy take. I thought it was like, okay, Max had a hot take.
For context, Max means this is not a guy you can pay the $20+ million
Right,
for a receiver.
precisely.
That's
and
all
no
he's
one's
saying.
willing to
Precisely.
be reasonable. Like Twitter and these social media worlds, the message boards, everyone lives on the extremes. Right. So it's like you had to take those, like, not on an extreme, kind of close to it, but pretty far from the middle, but close enough to the middle where if anyone was thinking with their heads, they should have been like, okay, I can see the reasons for why you would think that, but I just think he's got a lot of potential. It wasn't that. I mean, look at the replies, because when you sent me the tweet, I'm like, okay, Max tweeted something about trading Olave, big fucking deal. And then I look at the replies, and everyone's just like, you're nuts, GTFO, Olave's the goat emoji, or whatever. And
he's great. He's a superstar. And
I couldn't believe the replies.
I'm like, in what world is Chris Olave a superstar in the NFL?
I mean, he had he got a lot of hype preseason.
What's his signature game?
Before he played a game.
He's a really good receiver.
But again, like, this is the slippery slope.
He's not even that. He's a really talented receiver.
This is the slope we get on.
He hasn't done anything.
It's
Come
tough.
on, he's averaging 58 yards a game in his career. Give me a break.
Because people live in the extremes, there are those who might be listening to this that think we are trashing him. We are not. We think he's really fucking good. Okay?
I want him to be great.
We want him to be amazing. We are supporters of this man. He is
I want him to make it inarguable that you give him a 5-year, $150 million contract.
We want him to get his bag, which is just.
I want him to be Justin Jefferson. I don't give a fuck about his bag. I want him to be Justin Jefferson to the point where we're looking at it and going, we absolutely have to pay this man.
It'd be nice if he gets his bag. I think it'd be nice.
I don't care about it. The reality is, I don't see any world in which he turns into that player.
The reality is, so far, he's a niche receiver. He doesn't win contested catches. He doesn't make huge plays in big moments. To be fair, we're a season and a half into his career, but that season and a half is 6 Saints games so far he's been on the team. I know he's missed a couple. He has 5 touchdowns. He averages about, I think, 58, 60 yards a game. There is nothing elite that Chris Olave has done yet.
Yeah.
I will never say that can't happen. I'm
it
just saying it hasn't happened yet.
He has the talent to be elite, but my point is, he has become this mascot for the car haters.
He's an example. And look, we've hit on Olave versus the Olave. This whole, I hope we win enough just to get rid of this whole, like, intra-squad drama.
I hope Olave he has 5 catches for 200 yards next week so I can shut the fuck up.
So everybody can. Yeah. But I think where we started this whole thing was that there's too many people out there.
Speaking up, did you see what Drew said about the Olave thing?
Oh, yeah. I forgot to text you about that.
What, against the Jags? I thought we buried that. Did we not bury that?
I'm just talking about the moment. He just said, stop making this something it isn't.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, that's what
reality.
it is. Like, so
let it go.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I think the reason we got into this whole people going nuts and social media lives on the extremes is because too much shit is being thrown around about this guy's the GOAT. This guy's the worst. That's
Are we talking about the Bears?
That's never the case, and that's what I was trying to get back to.
We'll slide over to it.
Because when we're talking about the Bears preview, we're talking about guys like Tyson.
This is the conversation that needs to be had because there are
Tyson
people.
Badgent.
I agree.
Did we say Tyson?
Look,
like a guy like that becoming QB in this day's NFL, like he would. That's why I think talking about people labeling people goats that aren't goats. The NFL is.
Can we trade them Jameis tomorrow and play Jameis? That'd be awesome.
Send him to the Vikings.
That might happen against the Vikings. But that's why I think the NFL is just in this like quarterback like
it's a
crisis.
bad spot.
It's a quarterback abyss right now.
Badgent would never have even sniffed the playing field.
Yeah, but guess what? He won his first start. And what immediately happened?
So he's amazing.
All of a sudden,
back to
Brock
Max's
Purdy.
statement, though.
Well, hold on. The Brock Purdy comparisons came flying out of the woodwork.
We were making Brock Purdy comparisons about Jake Haener hadn't even taken a snap.
Hoping
He would be.
Hoping.
Yes.
The three of us have done nothing
right.
but dog this offense all year, right?
Except for this past game.
In the last 3 games, the stat Max brings up gives a perfect state of the NFL from a quarterbacking and offensive standpoint. We are averaging 450 yards a game over the last 3 games, and it's the best in the NFL by 50 yards, and we are not a great offense.
Right.
That's where we're at with quarterback in the NFL right now. We are not an elite offense. We all know that. The whole league knows that. And somehow, by 50 yards, we've been the best offense.
Yeah, but what are the red zone statistics in that same stretch?
They haven't been as bad as you think.
We've seen
over the
what
last
the
3
yardage
weeks.
says. You know,
I mean,
that's why.
Even in the Jacksonville game, the red zone numbers weren't terrible. I think we were 2 for 4.
We went back to the whole
then
thing
4 for 5.
when our defense was like the only
That's 6
defense.
for 9. That's 67%.
When our defense had allowed 20 points or less in the last 10 or 11 games, everyone's like, "Oh, great defense." It's like, well, you went 5 and 6 in that stretch. Okay, like stats are sometimes indicative, but that yardage stat, I need to see the red zone performance again. We had one good game of red zone performance, so before we get bogged down in the yardage stats per game.
But the context of the stats does matter. I agree with you 100%. A lot of stats in the NFL are done in games that are out of reach, whatever, right? I just didn't feel that those were ours. But what I'm saying is the 450, we all know that hasn't been an elite performance. We would all agree on that. The last 3 weeks. And that leads the league. That tells you a lot.
There was a lot of meat left on the bones
because we weren't great.
Yeah.
We were not great, and we were the best by a yardage standpoint. I get, but we did score in that time frame 75 points, so 25 a game.
Without getting too much into like analytical theory, but it could be a marker of what the rest of the league is doing.
If I asked anyone if they thought the Saints were the best offense in the league over the last 3 years, even yardage wise, everyone says no.
Yeah,
everyone says no.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's where we're at with offense, and it's astonishing to me. And Max and I had a big talk about this on the way home. How have we made so many rules to help the offense, from PI, from holding, illegal contact, roughing the passer, all this, and the Saints are the 12th best team in yardage? And,
I think
that's crazy.
I think it goes back to your foundation as a team. We're not letting them practice in the offseason.
Yeah, but
that's a whole other conversation.
Why is scoring down? Why are we not seeing, like,
we're
the teams that are scoring the most are getting the biggest benefit from penalties?
We're
That's
not letting
really
these
what's
teams
going on.
actually practice football. We're letting these teams practice flag football, and then they're being asked to go play tackle football on Sundays. Like, that's where
you mean in the
performance
regular season, or you mean preseason?
I mean, even the regular season has restrictions, but mostly, off season being restricted. Training camp specifically. Training camp is usually where you just used to let your nuts drop back in the day.
Jeez.
You know, like,
well, let me say this, and we should probably move on to predictions. But let me go ahead and say this last thing.
Max, like Core said, nuts drop. We're moving on.
No, I don't care what you say. I'm not getting all PC like you like to get.
I know.
If you guys at home could see Corey, like, if I say something that's a little bit
Yep, it's true.
out of line, or so to speak, or Nick does it, Corey immediately jumps up to try to change the subject and goes full attorney mode.
Fact.
But,
I'd like to keep continuing to do this podcast. Yes.
Sign this NDA.
We can do this podcast as long as we fucking want, man.
It's good.
Anywho.
Anyway, so back to my original point. There is plenty of reason for us to have hope as far as playoffs are concerned, and getting there and talking about who we could possibly play, just from the reasoning that Nick just gave, in that the NFL is so damn bad and inconsistent right now, and the fact that we have been the most productive offense in the league over the last 3 games from a yardage standpoint shows you that even when we are not performing at our peak, we will still have the propensity to be a really good offense, and by association, a really good team.
And I think that's
so. This team, look, if the team that showed up in Indianapolis the other day shows up in the playoffs, they've got a chance against anybody. And we've already touched on how the NFC is not particularly strong.
With a little bit of better defensive play, but offense, yes.
Yeah.
So
Protect Carr on offense. It's going to be a difficult team.
yes,
Yep.
and that was the first thing we said in the preview episode. We said this team's going to go as far as the offensive line takes them.
Yep.
And the last couple of weeks, the offensive line has performed better. They started off, poorly, but they performed much better with this new combination. So I think if they can continue to perform the way they performed and they can stay healthy, this team has a real chance of doing something. And all I want is to be entertained. I don't want this team to tank. As much as I would love to get Drake May or Caleb Williams as the next quarterback and have, Ben Johnson as the next head coach, I want to be entertained.
Well, what team,
and this division is so fucking bad
tanking
right now
work.
that we have to take advantage of it.
I don't even need to be entertained. I just want to win.
No, I need to be entertained. I mean, well,
2-0.
I'll still be a Saints
entertained by wins.
I will be a Saints fan. I will be a very unentertained Saints fan. I will still be a goddamn Saints fan until the day I die. But it hurts me not to be entertained.
Yeah.
Max, score.
All right, score. So this weekend, I'm going to go ahead and predict a win. I feel like the offensive momentum carries over. We see a little bit of the now infamous C word.
Consistency.
It's not Clint. C word. Oh, consistency.
He said Clint. Nick said Clint.
We're gonna see. I don't know. If I did, wow. But
anyway, I didn't hear Clint. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and
One of us
say
is crazy either way.
I'm going to say 31 points for the Saints, and I'm going to say the defense gets back to what we saw in the first couple of games.
Be nice.
We're going to get some pass rush. I think for the first time in a long time, we're going to jump out to an early lead. So I'm going to go ahead and say 31 to, let's say, 13.
Damn.
So
that's the score I was going to take. Fuck. I might regroup.
So
Offensive MVP.
Offensive MVP. I'm going with my my guy Kamara again. I'm going to go ahead and manifest another rushing touchdown and another receiving touchdown for my guy.
2 TDs, all right.
And then for defense, this one, you know what?
Any yardage on AK or just 2 TDs? That's fine. Go ahead. Defense.
Yeah, I think 130 total yards.
Okay.
For defense, I'm going to go ahead. You know what? Cam Jordan, man. I keep going back to it. He's gonna have a multiple sack game.
Multiple.
One of these days. Cam gets 2 sacks on the rookie, Taylor, Tyson. Bagent. No, I mean he's all 3 of them. Triple T. So he's gonna have 2 sacks on Triple T. And Saints win 31-13.
The Triple T. All right. I'm gonna
let Corey go this time. Let Corey go and you finish this up.
All right, go ahead, Corey. You're
All
first.
right.
What's this L look like, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not predicting an L. I just Saints win.
This pod doesn't predict L's.
It does sometimes.
I was really close to predicting an L against the Colts, but then I realized that we were going to get it together in the mini bye. But I digress. I'm gonna go with 28 Saints to
3?
18 Bears.
3 would be awesome.
3 would be awesome, dude. 28-3.
I know.
I'm saving that one. You know that's coming out after the bye.
Well, we know
2 weeks
there's
from now.
2 very specific games that we could predict that against.
Yep.
Probably in both. Probably all 3 of us.
No, I think I'm going to go 28-18. I think that,
18?
Yeah, I think the Bears get the 18.
6 field goals?
It's going to be, it's not going to be that many field goals, but I think, they're going to be.
Do the math for me. How are they getting there if it's not all field goals?
They're going to get. You put me on the spot here.
2 touchdowns, 1 2-point conversion and field goal.
They're.
No, I want to understand the thought process. Of
2
how he got
safeties,
18.
2 touchdowns, 2 extra points.
They're going to.
Wow.
Skip it. What's the
I didn't
offensive
do the
MVP?
whole math for the prediction. I just know that the Bears are going to be in a position where they're going to score. Like, I think overall, the game's going to seem, not that close. It's going to seem like a bigger
This
margin.
might be one of those scoregamis with that 18 thrown in there.
Yeah, I love a good scoregami. It's great follow on Twitter.
Maybe that's a good question for the Twitter folks who listen to us. How did Corey get to 18? Or how did the Saints
It's back
get
there.
to 18?
It's back there somewhere. I just need to go back to my notes. I did the math a while ago before this. Can't repeat it. But
Offensive MVP.
offensive. The Bears are they're gonna be down a lot. They're gonna score touchdowns, try to go for 2. That's and they're gonna miss. Offensive MVP or make depending on. It could be 4 field goals and they get.
All right, we spent too much time on that. Come on.
Our offensive MVP in this game is going to be. There's only a couple that it could be right now, and it's going to be an Alvin Kamara game. A lot of receptions per usual, but he's going to make something out of them, exploit the Bears defense, make a miss.
How many total yards?
He could have a 150 total yard type game. Total yards.
I like it. How many touchdowns?
Sheesh.
I'm going to go with 2. Out of 4. You get 2 out of the 4.
You go bet that parlay. You're going to freaking go to Hawaii on vacation.
Well,
150 and 2
That's if I don't, put down like $1 on it. And then defensive MVP on this one is I'm gonna go with Lattimore. Yeah, because I mean,
What's he gonna do?
He's been doing well. I think he's got his pick, but he's gonna have a. But shit, you know what? I'm gonna go away from him actually because they're not gonna even throw to him.
Marcus May incoming.
Here it comes.
Yeah, well,
is he gonna play?
We don't even know he's gonna play. But I think Alontae Taylor has a bounce back game, and you're gonna see him with a pick and 2 tackles for loss. Whether they send him on a blitz or not, I don't know. But
2 tackles for loss. Okay.
yeah, he's gonna be
It's a
getting his
weird
nose in there.
stat. Okay.
And from the nickel, they'll send
I'm
him
gonna
up.
rush him.
But yeah, he's just gonna be all over the place.
All right, Nick, what you got?
30-10. Carr 290 with 3 touchdowns. Granderson 5 tackles, 2 sacks, fumble.
Wow, filling up that stat line.
Good night.
I'm sorry, did you say Granderson or Lawrence Taylor? I would love it. Don't get me wrong.
I think he's going to be holding the ball. I think Granderson gets there. I think he's the guy, not Cam. 2 sacks, and one of them's going to be a strip sack.
Boom.
Okay. So we are predicting consistency, is what it sounds like.
That's a collective 89-31 between the 3 of us.
I would love it if we beat them 89-31. I mean, I wouldn't even care about 31 at that point.
I would love to know how you got to your 18, but we'll hold on.
I gotta again. It's on my notes.
Groupie 3 for 3, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Bringing him back.
Okay.
Bringing him back from the dead.
All right.
I still hate him. Sorry, Groupie.
All right. Well, there you have it. We covered a preview and a whole lot more on this episode. And from here, off to the Bears game, to the Dome. Got to see if we can do it again.
Groupie's going to be the GOAT after this game.
Goat emoji, hashtag.
One good game. Go.
Anyway, until then, thank you again for listening to another episode of the 28-3 podcast.